In this tutorial, we're going to talk about transpositions. Now, there are two types of transposition that you can do with a piece of music. One has to do with all of the instruments, and it's changing the actual pitches that you hear. So rather than having a song in one pitch or one key, where maybe your vocalist is singing like this and they can't really get anything out, and you want to up the pitch for all the notes that are in your music, in your song, you'll want to transpose the entire piece, okay, to a different key. Now, to do that in Notation Musician or Notation Composer, you go to Staff and go down here toward the bottom, and you'll see these two different transpose commands. The first is transpose actual pitches, and that's the one that you want when you want to change the key of a piece. In other words, you want to change actually what you hear to either higher or lower. And you'll also notice that we have this nice little "do you really want to do this" screen. And this is just an explanation screen to try to help folks understand the difference between the actual pitches or transposing an instrument key. Now, the actual pitches is what you want to do when you want to transpose the heard pitches of the notes, as well as the notation for all the staves. Okay? And you can do that in Composer for the whole song. You can do it if you want to add some modulation, where you want to change the key in the middle of the song or whatever. You can do that for a range of measures. Right here, that's after you've selected them. Right now, we're going to just do it for the entire score so I can show you what we're talking about. This is the entire score here. That's the default selection. It's from measure 1 through, in this particular song, it's a measure 196. You can do the transposition a couple of ways. You can either say, okay, I want to go, let's say, 4 half steps up. We had selected down before 4 half steps up, okay, which will put you in the key of A major. If it's a minor piece, then it'd be F sharp minor. That sounds lovely. Or if you want to do it this way by changing the key signature, you can use this. If you want to say you know that you want to put it in a particular key, you can change the key signature here, or you can pull it down and select what key you want it in here. Okay, very handy. So what we're going to do, just for demonstration purposes here, is we're going to put it up just 2 half steps up, or maybe we should do it down. Okay, and if you'll notice, when we went back to here, that's the key. Excuse me, F is what it's in currently. Okay, so it keeps track of where you're at, doesn't let you get confused. Really nice. Let's move it a couple of half steps down just for fun, because we've got brass players and stuff and they like, flat keys. Okay, so now you'll notice that notes have moved down. You'll notice the key signature has changed. You'll also notice that the key signature is the same all the way across here. This is what we call concert pitch. Okay, this is the key. Here, we'll go back here to show you. Okay, we've put it all in E flat major. E flat major is the key signature that's shown here. That's called concert pitch. And you can change that by going to Staff, Show Concert Pitches, or Instrument Transposed Pitches. Now, we have not transposed the instrument pitches in this piece yet, but we're just about to do that. What's the difference? Not all instruments need a transposition to be able to play the piece as written. Piano is not a transposing instrument. Trombones are not transposing instruments. There are some instruments that transpose. Piccolo is an instrument where you'll see these notes are up quite high. It's very difficult to read these on ledger lines. Notation for piccolo is not typically written up this high. Notation for piccolo is transposed to an octave lower than what you actually hear. Okay, that's the typical way that piccolo notation is written. Clarinet is probably one of the most familiar transposing instruments. We typically think of a B-flat clarinet. A fingering pattern on a clarinet that would play what the clarinetist would think of as a C actually sounds at B-flat. So the sound that the instrument makes when fingered for C is actually a whole note lower. It plays B-flat, therefore it's called a B-flat clarinet. You may also be familiar with E-flat or A-flat clarinets or other wind instruments. For those instruments, when the common fingering of C is used, then an E-flat instrument would sound an E-flat rather than the C. Why do they do that? You can have clarinets that are different pitch ranges. Same for other wind instruments, brass instruments. And so rather than teaching different fingerings for these different instruments, you teach the same type of fingering, but the notation that that instrumentalist, that musician will have the notation transposed for the instrument. And that might be a little clearer here in a minute when we take a look at that. We'll go on down here to acoustic bass. Acoustic bass and guitar or other bass instruments, stringed bass instruments, are typically transposed an octave above what they actually sound. This pitch here, and we'll click on it and see, that's B-flat 2, okay. That note this is the actual, what you see is what you would hear note, okay. When we transpose that, we're going to put that so that that B-flat will actually appear up here on this line. Trombones do not transpose. They play what you hear what they play, and so this one will remain unchanged. So how do we fix that? How do we give the notation for each of these musicians that they need in order to all play together? One question that I've gotten from users who play clarinet or other transposing instruments is they're trying to practice with a file, but they haven't transposed the music, and so when they're playing, they're like, "Oh, it sounds awful." You know, I'm playing it right, but it just sounds really bad because the transposition hasn't been made. So, how do we do that? We go to Staff, back down here to Transpose, but now we're going to go to Instrument Key. Okay, and again, it's going to ask you, it's just to give you a little explanation to help you remember which transposition is which. Okay, we're going to transpose the instrument key. We're going to transpose the displayed pitches of notes according to the transposing key of the instrument. Okay, and here you have the examples. Okay, it doesn't change what you hear, but it will change how it looks so that you as the musician can play it properly. Okay, now there's a very cool little thing, and we will work to have more instruments included in this automatic thing. You can look up all the instrument transpositions. Okay, now the one that shows up as a change is the B-flat clarinet. Okay, now, or you can look up different individual ones. This looks all of them up at once. It's pretty handy. Now, we know that the piccolo should not be up that high. It's an octave difference, and what you do if you need to change one manually is you click right on the octaves, okay? And we're going to go one octave, but it's going to read, okay, the note read as C actually sounds one octave above for piccolo, okay? Let's review that again because it does get to be a little tricky. Remember we said that for a piccolo, the sounds that you hear are above the notation that you typically would see. And that's the way I remember it. So for the piccolo, we're going to select one octave above. For the bass, it's going to be one octave, but it's below, okay, right here. And then, as we said before, trombone does not transpose. Okay, so, okay, we've got our transpositions picked here. We're going to click Finish, and you'll see that this is much more readable. And you'll also notice that for the clarinet, the key signature has changed. Okay. We'll also see that now that we've done that transposition, the display automatically goes to show the instrument transposed pitches. Okay. And this, again, that's a little safeguard question there. So what you see here, see that note is still B flat 2, but the notation for it has changed from the concert pitch, which was down here on a bunch of ledger lines, up to where more bass players, myself included, are more used to seeing that notation. So that's a brief look at instrument transpositions. Now, if you're working with the file, say you're in Composer and you're composing, you can always change back to show the concert pitches. Okay, and again, it'll ask you, do you want to do it for this one? And you can do that while you're working on your notation. Go back either here or in the format. Okay, so you can print it out either way that you want to as well. So there you have it, instrument transpositions and key transpositions. Have a good one.